any of the live streams, feel free to jump on chat and ask us any questions you have. But tonight's topic's pretty relevant to this week's show. We're going to talk all about marketing ideas and strategies you can implement for less than $100, or as we like to say, for less than a good cup of coffee a day. Wayne, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well, Kevin. Thank you. Yeah, this should be an interesting quick hit. I came across the article today, actually. I was just browsing the internet, and lo and behold, there was an article about how to do small business marketing effectively, and it got talking about budgets. So I figured this would be a good little live bites just to kind of get into. So I mean, where to begin? We want to, our whole business model is to find and promote small businesses for as cheap as a cup of coffee. And so we got certain tactics that we use to be able to do that. And so we want to give you a couple of tips tonight just to help you kind of figure out how best to market your small business.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great point. And really, I mean, for less $100, just about any business, even if you're just getting started, you can somehow, if you have to forego that cup of coffee every day, there's a lot of good strategies you can start with. Some of them for probably even less. You brought up what I think is a great one on Monday's show, and that was, MailChimp. I mean, I haven't looked recently, but last I saw, under 2,000 contacts? And I mean, you get email marketing up and running for nothing?
Yeah, I mean, MailChimp is a very cost-effective mechanism, plus with the added bonus of having some form of marketing automation, plus storing all your email database. So if you haven't got one and you're relying on something like an Excel spreadsheet, for the cost of very little money, actually, free to begin with for 2,000, I think it is 2,000 addresses, you can get going. So yeah, definitely check out MailChimp. That's a great way to kind of save some cash and make sure you're doing the right e-marketing. The other one that I was thinking about, which is kind of interesting, piggybacking off this, is how well do you know your audience? How well do you know, and how well can you identify your ideal buyer? So there's research can cost millions, as you know, but yes, you can do some pretty effective research just on your own.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. There is a research small business tool that I think is actually really awesome, and that is InfoUSA. And you can use InfoUSA usually if you have a library card. So there's another good reason. Get out. If you aren't reading business books, you should be. And a second reason is InfoUSA. You ever use it? I'm sure you've used InfoUSA, or it's basically the scaled down free version of a Dun & Bradstreet or one of those. Provides executives and company size. You can search on SIC, NICS codes.
Yeah, I've used that, and I've also used the government demographic data, which is free access. So you can find out a lot of local demographics if you're trying to figure out your local catchment area and who's in there and what the average spend is and how much is someone paying for their mortgage, blah, 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 blah. All this research can really help you identify the ideal customer. So again, that's a really great tool, and plus with the free data that comes out of the census every year, and it's pretty detailed, you can get a lot of information for nothing.
I never actually thought of really digging into the census data and trying to pull stuff out of that.
Yeah, it's an interesting avenue to go down, and you can very easily get caught up in it and probably end up going down a rabbit hole that you don't need to. So, when you do look at that sort of information, look at stuff that's pertinent to your business, look at e-commerce sales, look at mobile usage, look at tablet usage, look at average incomes, look at the most profitable zip codes, like all those sort of things, or the highest earning zip codes in your area. All that kind of information can really help, and obviously that's more of a e-commerce kind of approach, but it can also tell you about their professional outlook, and if you tie those two tools together, that's a pretty good basis to start your research.
Absolutely. And you can't go wrong with market research. I was just talking about it with someone today. The more insight you can get, and even the pairing of, census data, noticing, looking for trends along with, any of the free Info USA type data. Any way you can start getting a little bit more insight is definitely really worthwhile. I think especially for businesses looking to grow.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, we said it a lot on the show. I think in pretty much every episode at this point, we have said, know your customer, know your brand. And so all of any information you can get is going to be beneficial and give you power to be able to, effectively use your marketing, grow your business, and then ultimately, become more and more successful. I mean, I want to jump back quickly to the email conversation because, again, we talked a little bit about email on the show this week, and I think we had some good content and good ideas. If you were making a recommendation for someone who perhaps they haven't tried e-marketing, or perhaps they've read and sort of said, hey, this isn't really working for many people according to the internet, what words of advice would you give them?
It's a great point. As someone who it's probably tried a little bit of all email marketing, and it can be discouraging, but I think you just have to remember, as long as you need to be consistent with it for 6 months. If you do it one off, it never seems to work unless you have a lot of email addresses. If you're like most of us and you don't have that many email addresses, you have to be doing it consistently. And, I think that goes for any of your marketing, but especially email. It needs to be that consistent kind of cadence of, if you send it once a week, great. If you send it bi-weekly or monthly, but you know what? You have to do it every month. You can't do January, February, and the new year, skip March, do April, skip May. It's hard to see an ROI when you do it like that. But if you do it consistently, whatever that kind of cadence is, I think that, once you hit that 6 month point, it's a lot easier to start seeing some results. Because I think the thing that plagues all of us with any marketing strategy is inconsistency.
Absolutely. Consistency is a very, very definite approach you need to have. Is whatever you decide to do, whatever that cadence is, once a week, twice weekly, even quarterly, stick to it. People will get used to you sending emails on a Thursday evening at 5 p.m. So if you can, always try to send it at the same time too. I mean, you can get really granular with it, but it makes a huge difference. We're talking about email here and consistency in sends, but also think about that from a social channel point of view as well, which is, consistent posting. If you're running YouTube videos like we do, try to post them frequently and stick to that cadence, and don't get lazy, as it were. Make sure that you are consistently putting content out there at the same time each and every week. That way your viewers, your subscribers, whatever they are, your customers, get used to you providing that information and actually start to anticipate it and look forward to it coming.
No, absolutely. It's funny. I think it's somewhat similar. I mean, obviously a little different, but I listen to a sports talk podcast pretty regularly. And I always listen to it pretty much on my drive home.
Yeah. And
if it's not uploaded by the time I'm driving home, I'm like, man, what? But, on the flip side, I completely understand as you and I handle, all the production and everything for our videos, the podcast, everything, and the posting. Sometimes you don't realize it, and then a couple hours go by and you haven't done it by the point you normally do, or, something technical comes up. But I have to say overall, having listened to this podcast now, he's gotten much more consistent with telling people, hey, I'm not doing one tomorrow, or, this, or they're always usually up by a 2-hour window. So, and that, which, as someone who's a listener, and as then, as the podcast is looking to sell advertising, that's an important thing. You want to keep me as a listener, you have to keep that consistency of, all the time having it available when people expect it. And I think that goes for email marketing, social media, everything. that you're putting out organically.
I mean, if you're running that podcast or you're doing video sequences and you're relying on the advertising that those things can generate, I mean, your advertisers are going to be looking for that consistency of outreach, making sure that you're publishing your content that frequency and ensuring that their ads are getting the sort of views that they need. So if you don't and you start to slip here and there, you're going to start to lose some of your advertising or potential sponsorships. So again, that's not really, it's definitely not a good business practice, I think.
No, and I think that goes for, we can look at, even if you're a local, massage therapist or, a boutique or, hair salon. If people are used to seeing it regularly, or if you are someone who is active on, say, Instagram or something, you need to do it all the time and not, some of the time. That's the difference in, I think, success for especially small business marketing, but probably life.
Yeah. I mean, so interesting you brought up Instagram. I just passed 6,000 followers on my personal Instagram, which is a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah.
Something I started up for fun, but I've just passed the 6,000 mark. I was stuck around that 5,400 for probably about 6 or 7 months, and I figured out what it was. It was the cadence at or the frequency that I was posting at. So I dialed back a little bit, and that's actually made the difference. I've started to use better better hashtags and things like that. So I'm starting to get more views, I'm getting more followers, and I'm pretty pleased with that. And it's only my personal one, my hobby, my fishing one. But it's if you can start to understand how people are reacting to your content, and it does take about 6 months, and this is true of email as well. If you can start to learn how people are consuming your content or working with it, working or looking forward to getting their content, you can start to learn how to distribute it better. So you can refine your strategy and start dialing back potentially. Or if you're not getting the kind of views or the anticipated amount of engagement that you want, start pushing it more frequently. Test these things out. But the one thing you don't want to do is just stop, because that's guaranteed to get you nowhere. I think another really key part of something you can do, that actually on the surface it doesn't seem like it's going to be that big a deal, but the underlying part of it is really important, I feel, which is we talk about e-marketing, we talk about consistency, these are all great, but again, if your destination is a website and you're asking people to visit your website, fill in a form, download a piece of content, watch a video, whatever that is, you've got to make sure your website's performance is good. Like it's not taking 2 minutes to download a page. It's coming down within 7 to 5 seconds. So look for opportunities to improve your website. Not necessarily redesign everything, but maybe it's just look at those images and learn how to optimize your images. If you're loading a lot of images onto your website and they're all pretty high resolution, it's going to bog down the server, so you need to improve it. You can also look into very cheap options around CDNs or content delivery networks, which basically cache everything and then push it, so it loads all the code and then it pushes the content out, but it's done on super fast servers and it enables your website to perform much, much quicker. And there's some really good, fair priced ones out there. Cloudflare is one and a few others. So definitely worth looking into optimizing your performance of your website. If you've got over 250 odd pages, start to look at them and say, okay, do I need 250 pages, or am I looking more of a 10 page, a 20 page? And if you are, look at your host. Is your host where you started off, as most small businesses do, with a relatively cheap host? Maybe it's time to upgrade your hosting service. If you're on legacy old servers, let's move to the cloud. That's instantly going to be quicker. So there's things you can do that are very cost effective that can make a huge impact to the performance of your website. So when you put your website together and the performance, you put your cadence together, so you're posting blog posts frequently, you're doing video content, you're getting your social out there, you're working on your e-marketing, you're starting to build a very, very a plan for great success in terms of your marketing. So
absolutely,
I wanted to bring that up because I think that's a a point that gets overlooked a lot is how is your website actually performing? Not just in terms of how much traffic you're getting. How is it actually working? Is it taking 20 seconds to download a single page? If it is, you need to be changing it, because people won't hang around for too long if it's taking that long to download.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, unless you are in a business that you believe. All right, let me stop this thought, because that was going to be. I was going to say, if you're in a business that you think you can get away with it, really today you can't. You know, like
Yeah.
it might be what the best $100 small business marketing tip might be. If you have an existing business, you might want to upgrade your website to Squarespace, Wix, something new, WordPress, whatever it is. Take that first $100 and bring it into this. We're about to switch decades. It might be time to make a resolution, New Year's resolution, and upgrade the website, get the design a little better. There's definitely some people, some great businesses that lag behind, and I'll be honest, I think it really hurts them, and they don't see it. They're like, oh, I'm doing this well, I can't do much better, but often they can.
Yeah, I think the one thing that always springs to mind, and me and you actually talked about this after the show, on our way out the radio station, we stopped and we was talking about another client of ours, and we sort of said, he was kind of shocked to hear when I said the website's never really done. And he's like, what do you mean? Well, you've designed it, you've put the content in, what else is there? The first thing you have to understand about your website is it really is never done. It's a constant evolving animal. And if you're not keeping up to date with your coding, with your WordPress installs, with your plugin updates and all that craziness, very soon that website's going to start to deteriorate. Now, nothing alarming, it's not going to break the next day you go in, but in some cases, and I've seen this over the course of a couple of months, those plugins that they relied on so heavily to process their forms or create fluid layouts, those plugins stopped working, and slowly but surely the website deteriorated, and they ended up spending more money by not maintaining it properly in order to get a brand new out-of-the-box website. Which is crazy, especially with Wix and Squarespace and all the others that are out there that are worth looking at, because it's all up to date. It's modern technology.
It is. No, and I mean, I think it's worth it, especially if you run a good business that may seem traditional and not need it. I would kind of go back to what I was talking about on the show the other week about buying a Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm.
That guy had a great thing going with, it's outdoors, and people love outdoors things. I mean, people drive from the city, 45 minutes to get to the, outdoors. He had the free beer, cut your own tree. A good web presence probably would have, got him 20% more business because I went somewhere else.
Absolutely.
We're going there.
It does. And so here's another thing. I mean, if you think about small businesses, I think there is an over-reliance on word of mouth instead of thinking through your marketing properly. And I know me and you talk about word of mouth as a great thing, and it really is. But if it's the only thing you're relying on to promote and drive new business, then you're going to struggle, because there's only so many mouths you're ever going to reach. So I think it's really important for small business owners to understand, you may have great word-of-mouth marketing right now, but build for the future, because you're not going to stay at the size you are. In theory, everyone needs more customers. Everyone wants to get slightly bigger. You don't want to go. For some, they want to get into the multi-millions. For others, it's more, I want to get over 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 a year. Well, in order to do that, you can't just rely on that one source of new customers, and word of mouth is great. But if that, think about other areas, think about your SEO, think about your web performance, think about your social channels. This is why me and you were harping on so much about e-marketing, is I can pick on 50 different websites that I go to, and one will tell me, it's the way to go forward. The next one will tell me, no, e-marketing doesn't work anymore. Everyone's got spam filters in place, blah, 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 blah. If you're not doing it, you're not even in the arena. So you have to be mindful, right? So you have to work at these things and understand that it takes more than just word of mouth to build your business and be successful. So, yeah, I think my biggest tip to anyone, and this is free advice, so therefore it is under $100, so it's relevant, a good strategic marketing mix for any business size, whether you're small, medium, large, mega. It doesn't matter. If you've got a good marketing mix and a good strategy behind it, then there's no reason why your efforts won't go unrewarded.
Absolutely.
So that was my $3 $100 thing. Thank you very much, Kevin. But yeah,
it's true. I mean, there's a lot of great opportunities out there.
There is, and I think we've briefly touched on voice search. Amazon, Google, Apple, they've all got these voice recognition now, and the TVs have got it. It's a whole new world in terms of search now. So you've got to think beyond, you've got to start thinking beyond your website. It's like, okay, well, what sort of things, how can I get better rankings on my Alexa app and get my products or my services top of that list when someone in Allentown or Philadelphia searches for a plumber or a masseuse or whatever it is, a physiotherapist. They're not necessarily always going to Google now. They're using Siri or they're using Alexa. So you've got to start to think of that. And again, it all ties off of your website, certainly. But this is how things are moving now. It's becoming more automated. More it's ease of doing business, ease of making your life easier technically through technology. So if you're not keeping up to not keeping up with the Joneses, as it were, you're going to fall behind real fast. And
absolutely,
I think that if you think about the $100 free advice, whatever, I mean, trying to keep up can be very expensive, but there are definitely cheap and effective ways to do it.
we sure got ourselves sidetracked off great $100 ideas to market your business.
We did, if
so
you
maybe
watched the show,
to recap, we could say, make sure your website is up to date, and at least start email marketing.
Yeah, at a minimum. And failing that, give us a call, because we cost you the price of coffee and we can drive customers through. So visit www.smbAcceleration.com, fill in the little form, and we'll be in touch with you very soon. So as per usual, me and Kevin get sidetracked during our conversations, but it's all good stuff. And I think as people listen in and feel free to chime in and question everything, because we certainly do. Hopefully you've enjoyed our quick video. As you probably already know, or if you don't and you're new, please subscribe in the video, that little button down in the corner. Switch the bell notification to all so that you can always keep up to date with any live feeds or pre-recorded content that we may be putting out there. And you can also listen to us on WWDB 860 AM, Philadelphia 8 till 9 AM on Monday mornings every week. SMB Acceleration.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast.
Oh yeah, and you can find podcasts
if
wherever they're found. So that's us signing off, and as you can tell, we're not used to doing this live. So we'll speak to you all later. Thanks very much, guys. Hey, we'll get better at it, I'm sure. But that was funny.
Yeah, we took a right and then just went with it.
Oh, we did. We just kept rolling.
We should probably put notes together for these.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth trying. It was a one-off. I don't know. Was you on Restream?
Yeah, I logged on and I actually set up the chat. I didn't know you had to download it and all.
Oh, okay, cool. That's cool.
So I downloaded the chat. It looks like it pushes to Facebook and both YouTube. Somebody was watching us on Facebook.
That's probably, if that was my wife, it could have been.
Somebody was watching. That was it. We have one viewer. Total.
Hey,
Let's see if I can find it on YouTube now.
Oh well, it happens.